Hi, this is Karen Peters with RenovatedFaith.com, and today we are talking furniture paint again. Last week you may know that we compared 3 of the top types of furniture paint. We compared Annie Sloan's chalk paint, Miss Mustard Seed's milk paint, and then also a latex paint, Sherwin-Williams Pro Classic. So we went through and compared these in terms of what I call the ABCs of furniture paint: adhesion, budget friendliness, coverage, durability, and ease of use. And basically we found out some different things for each. They're different, definitely very different paints. Some have different uses than others. For one thing, the Miss Mustard Seed milk paint, which is a traditional milk paint, was great for a layered look if you want to do layering, and also if you don't use this bonding agent, which helps it adhere to surfaces. It is really great for a chippy, distressed look if that's kind of your thing. So you can get really artistic with this, and also it goes into the surface of the wood. So here's chalk paint. Many people are familiar with chalk paint. It covers well and it sticks to surfaces well, but the calcium carbonate in chalk paint that makes it stick to things well also doesn't make it very durable. So because of that, you have to have a wax, but I much prefer a clear coat so it doesn't have to be waxed every 6 months. And then we have a latex paint, and I picked a performance latex paint, Sherwin-Williams Pro Classic, and you can see it has less brush strokes than the chalk paint, and it does not require a top coat, but it does require a primer. So out of all these, we looked at all the criteria, and we felt like the latex came out on top. Even though you do have to use a primer, at least you don't have to use wax or a clear coat on top of it because it's already durable. It settles really well, and you can still get a matte satin finish, much like chalk paint. So that was our best competitor out of the 3. But if you want more of a chippy look, you probably want to go with the milk paint. So in some cases, we're comparing apples to oranges, and you just need to pick the right paint for whatever your furniture project is. Now today, some of you asked me, how does General Finishes milk paint compare? You talked about Miss Mustard Seed, but what about this milk paint? Well, there's a reason for that. I knew I was going to do a review just on General Finishes milk paint for one reason, and that's because it's not a milk paint at all. In fact, it has more in common than a latex paint, I keep getting paint on my hands, a latex paint than it does with a traditional milk paint. That's because a traditional milk paint has casein, which is milk protein, and that's the main ingredient in it, and also it usually comes in a powder form. But in actuality, the General Finishes milk paint, like I said, it's not milk paint at all. It's really more of an acrylic latex like you might find in a big box store for the paint that you use to paint walls. But, and this is according to the General Finishes website, it's not really a comparable product. It's the same type of product, but they use less fillers like calcium carbonate, what you'd find in chalk paint. So therefore, it's a superior product because they use more resins, less fillers. The resins make it more durable and better for a durable or a surface that's gonna take more wear and tear like furniture. And then also the resins they use are a much higher quality than what you'd see on a wall. So with that said, we can go through and compare how does General Finishes stack up against milk paint and chalk paint and the Pro Classic latex paint. But I think the real competition here is between our winner last week, the Sherwin-Williams Pro Classic, and the General Finishes milk paint. So let's compare. So far, I like General Finishes milk paint over the traditional milk paint because it doesn't have to be mixed. It is already pre-mixed. It doesn't have to come in a powdered form that you have to mix with a bonding agent and water, and it's just easier. Also, it covers a lot better and doesn't leave any brush strokes. But again, if you like that, if you like a more chippy look, you might want to go with a traditional milk paint. I like General Finishes Milk Paint over Annie Sloan Chalk Paint. I'm sorry, you chalk painters. Because it goes on smoother, it's more durable, it'll dry in the same amount of time, but you'll have a much more durable finish. Now, what I wasn't sure about was how I like latex, the Sherwin-Williams Pro Classic in comparison to the General Finishes Milk Paint. So just to confess, this is my old stamp eye. This is what I use on most everything because I really like it. So we're gonna compare the two because I feel like with these, we're comparing more apples to apples since these are technically both, the Pro Classic and the General Finishes Milk Paint are technically both water-based acrylic latex paints. So what I've done, so on this board was last week's post, and I compared traditional milk paint, Annie Sloan Chalk Paint, Pro Classic. And this week we're bringing in the General Finishes Milk Paint. So here we're comparing, and so this whole board was primed in this charcoal gray. And the reason why I did that, this board was just raw wood. So then I realized almost anything can cover raw wood well. But we want to make this a little bit harder to see which really covers the best. So that's why I painted this in a darker gray so that we can see which actually covers the best. So we've got Sherwin-Williams Pro Classic brushed on, General Finishes Milk Paint brushed on, Sherwin-Williams rolled on, and General Finishes Milk Paint rolled on. So I want to see the coverage in terms of, you know, brushing on, rolling on, and just how they compare. So I've already brushed on the Pro Classic here. And it took a little bit longer to brush this on. I'm not sure what that means or if it matters that much. And you can see, even though this is a lighter color than the, I think it's General Finishes Halcyon Blue, that it covered pretty well. You can see a little bit of the gray coming through. You can see less brush strokes in the Sherwin-Williams Pro Classic than you can in the General Finishes Milk Paint, and that's a big deal to me. To some people, they like the brush strokes. It's kind of a matter of personal preference. Okay, so here you can see the General Finishes Milk Paint. This dried faster than this did. The dry time is shorter on General Finishes Milk Paint than the Sherwin-Williams latex, but the cure time is longer. What does that mean? The cure time just means how long the paint takes to get to where it's reached its full hardness. For General Finishes Milk Paint, that was 21 days. For Sherwin-Williams Pro Classic, that was 7 days. So if that's a big deal to you, that's something you might want to take into consideration. Okay, so now we're going to roll on the General Finishes, the Sherwin-Williams Pro Classic, and it's the greener paint here. And we're gonna see how it covers. And the reason I wanna see how it rolls on is because this is my preferred way to paint. And in this week's blog post, I'll tell you about my favorite roller. I'll go ahead and tell you now. It's the Behr Best roller. It's a 6-inch roller that's microfiber, Behr Best, and you can get it at Home Depot, and I love it. You can get a really smooth finish. So here is the Sherwin-Williams Pro Classic Roll It On, and we're gonna see how it covers. And that looks pretty good. I can see some of it coming through. Okay, so I can see some of the gray coming through. We're gonna let it put on as much as we can without it getting too thick. Okay, so that looks pretty good in terms of coverage. Now we're going to try the General Finishes Milk Paint in Halcyon, I hope I'm saying that right, blue. And I love this color. As you can see, I love this color. So we're just gonna roll that on. Hope y'all can see that okay. Try not to cover up my labels. And this, I don't know why, but this just goes on smoother. Not necessarily the final product, but in terms of initial coverage, I'm not sure if that matters much. And I would say it's probably covering better than the Sherwin-Williams Pro Classic, which is great. So we're gonna let these dry, and then we're gonna come back and see which is the smoothest finish. But so far, from what we know, it's kind of a toss-up. It depends on what you like most out of furniture paint. The Sherwin-Williams Pro Classic is a little smoother, less brush strokes when brushed on, but this one, the General Finishes, dried a little faster and maybe covered better. We'll see. This will be the true test on coverage with the roller. And so we will come back and let you know after these are dried what the final results are. Okay, we are back and everything has dried now. We're ready to compare the General Finishes milk paint with our other paints. So in comparison to the Miss Mustard Seed milk paint, it definitely covers better and has less brush strokes. If you want a chippy finish that is more distressed, you might like the Miss Mustard Seed. If you want a more consistent smooth finish, you definitely want to use the General Finishes milk paint here. Now, in comparison to the chalk paint, both don't really need a primer. They stick well to surfaces, but the General Finishes milk paint doesn't need a wax or a clear coat on top. So that's kind of a no-brainer. Also, it covers as well and has less brush strokes than the chalk paint here. Now, here was where the real contest is for me personally. The General Finishes milk paint versus Sherwin-Williams Pro Classic, which is a performance latex paint. You can see that we brushed on and compared how they brushed on over a really dark gray primer, and then compared how they rolled on with a dark gray primer. The General Finishes did better in terms of coverage with rolling on, and about the same in terms of coverage than the Sherwin-Williams. Now, the Sherwin-Williams maybe had less brush strokes, but not by much. In terms of cost, the General Finishes milk paint is about $29, $30 depending on where you get it. You can get it on Amazon, $29 per quart, which is a little bit pricier than the Sherwin-Williams at about $20 a quart. But if you're using less coat, since it covers so well, then that'll kind of come out even. The Annie Sloan chalk paint is over $30 a quart, so it's cheaper than the chalk paint. In terms of coverage, we already said that General Finishes milk paint does really well, hopefully so that you don't have to put a lot of coats of paint on your furniture piece. Durability, if you are going to be using it on like a tabletop or a piece that you know that is going to get a lot of heavy use, you definitely want to use a clear coat. For light and medium use furniture pieces, I think you're okay without a clear coat. And then ease of use, it brushed on really easily, which surprised me because it's pretty thick. And also there's a lot of different color options. Unfortunately, it can't be tinted like in your local paint store, but there's 30 colors to choose from. And then online, they have 100 other colors to choose from that you can get by mixing the 30 basic colors that they have. And they're really clear on showing you how those mixed colors compare to the paints that they have in the can, and showing you exactly what you need to do, what you need to mix to come up with those color options. So you definitely have more options with being able to mix their paint together. So when it's all said and done, General Finishes milk paint is a really high quality furniture paint. Yes, it's an acrylic latex like you might find in a big box store like Home Depot or Lowe's, but it's different chemically because the resins they use are higher quality and they use less fillers, making it great for furniture. So I don't think you can go wrong with this product. I've always been pretty sold on the Sherwin-Williams latex, and I hate to say it, I think this might be a better product and you can't go wrong with it. Thank you, and be sure to check out the blog post at renovatedfaith.com for all the details and where you can get General Finishes milk paint. Thanks.